G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking all about this little guy. This is an obdII gauge. I'm going to talk about exactly what this unit does, how we go about setting up and installing it today, and going over some of the features and why I chose this unit over some of the others on the market. So hang around to find out more. Okay guys, so this I've got here is an Ultragauge. Now Ultragauge is a company over in America and the USA, and they manufacture these little gauges that plug directly into the obdII port of your factory vehicle. Now all vehicles made these days have these ports, and what it allows you to do is access a lot of information that you can't normally see from the dash or from other electronic features in your vehicle. Now this particular one here is the model MX1.4. So this was released in March of last year, and it's just the upgraded version from the 1.3. They do offer also one called the EM Plus, which is just a basic version and doesn't quite have as many features as this one here does. So although I'm not going to be using all the features that this one does have, I know that this one here is also pre-programmed from the manufacturer to be able to run the software that this 4.5 litre twin turbo uses in my 200 series LANDCRUISER. Now the reason that I've got, and I recommend that a lot of four-wheel drivers, especially those who tow or use their vehicle in heavy duty off-road conditions, buy one of these, is it gives you access to a lot of features that you just can't read or access from the factory dash or the electronic system in the car. So using that obdII port, this will pick up on up to 135 different sensors and parameters that the obdII port allows access to. And it will give you a lot of detailed information with exactly what's going on inside the engine and all your driveline. Wherever there's an electronic feature, this will be able to show you what's going on. Now in addition to that, it also shows you any engine faults or codes that flicks up. So instead of just a check engine light that you would normally get on the dash of your vehicle, this will give you a description of the code, and from that you'll be able to diagnose what's going on with the vehicle. So in addition to knowing what is going on with the vehicle as well, if you're able to rectify that issue, you can use this little unit here to clear that engine code and get that engine light off the dash as well, which will allow you to exit limp mode and continue on your way. Now, obviously this is only recommended if you are sure that you've fixed the issue and you're not going to be causing damage to the vehicle if there is an issue that needs rectifying. There's a couple of reasons why I chose this particular unit. One of them, the main one, being the display. So it's got a very small but very easy to read display, and it's configurable in many different functions. So I think the biggest competitor for this would be the scan gauge. And although the scan gauge shows most of the same data, if not exactly the same data, I do believe that this little monitor here is a lot easier to read, and you're able to configure it into a lot finer detail that suits exactly what you require from where you're driving. So just before we go on to installing this unit, just so you know, I am not affiliated with Ultragauge in any way. I did pay full retail price for this unit, and I'm not receiving any promotions in regards to doing this video today. Also, just so you know, these units are advertised at about $97 when you include a single mount in the package. However, that is US dollars, and unfortunately to Australia, the shipping is quite expensive. So it ended up costing a bit over $270 Australian after the conversion rate and to get it shipped here to Australia. Okay, so before we go into the car and install this unit, just so you can see the unit up close, we've got a main screen on the front of the unit which takes up most of the front, and then on the back when you flip it over, you've just got a simple 3-button setup. So on the side here you've got a menu button, and then you've also got an up and down scroll button as well. Okay, so also in the box when you get the unit as well, you do get a mounting option. So you get to select the type of mounting option you want when you buy the unit. I've just gone for a horizontal type mount, which I've also put a slight bend on as well to suit the contours of the vehicle. And then this just sits inside the cradle there. Okay, so next consideration is in relation to the position of the mounting. There's a couple of places in a 200 that suit the mounting of these little units. The first one is on top of the steering wheel column. Now I'm choosing not to mount it there, especially on the VX and Sahara models. That center screen is partially covered, and you need it for things like your multi-terrain select and your low range four-wheel driving options there. The next one is the windscreen. Some people do mount it up the top of the windscreen here in the corner, just stuck to the windscreen itself, and run the wiring down the A-pillar. The option I'm choosing today is to mount it at the base of the A-pillar, using that mount stuck to the plastic here. I'll keep it nice and tidy at the base of the A-pillar and run the wiring down through the dash to the obdII port. Okay, to get the wiring down behind the dash, the best way is just to remove this panel here. I'm just got a screwdriver with a bit of tape on the end to prevent scratching the plastics. We can just undo the clipstone from the bottom and pull this panel out here. Just like that. Okay, so just remember, when you're sticking things down using double-sided tape, you want it to be an extremely clean surface to get the best adhesion. So I'm using a product today by Gion called Prep, and it's designed exactly for that, to take any contaminants off the surfaces prior to using double-sided tape. So we'll get that cleaned up. Just like that, the unit is mounted and going anywhere. Okay, so to get the wiring sorted, we need to remove these two bolts on the underside of the kick panel on the driver's side. Let's get that done. Once those two bolts are removed, there's three little press clips, one there, one in the centre, one on the left hand side, and that panel will simply drop down and pull out. Okay, so once your wiring's clipped up there, you can then reinstall that kick panel, the base of the driver's side there, just while making sure the obdII port comes through where that port is accessible from the outside. Okay, so now for the fun part. You're going to want to turn the car to the run position, so accessories on, but the engine's still off. Okay, so once that's done, you then want to plug in your obdII port. And the system will engage and start doing its scan. Okay, so this is here where we set our fuel and engine size capacities. So using the menu button on the left hand side and the up and down button on the other side, we can set it there to 138 litres for the Toyota Land Cruiser 200 series. And there we go. The Ultragauge is now set up, and this little flashing heart here means that it is operating correctly, and we've got a whole lot of gauges here. So now it's time to go in and start setting those gauges up. So a great thing about this unit is that you can set up a total of 6 different pages preset with the gauges you like. So you can have a page like this for day-to-day driving. You could set up a page for just your electronics and your battery voltages and things like that. You could have a page set up for towing and your transmission temps, your lockup kits, etc. like that. And so on and so on. So each page can be accessed by using the up and down toggle switches on the right hand side. Then they will have custom set up gauges. So as you can see here, this is an example of when you have 8 sensors displayed on one page. All the sensors will be displayed in the same size font, and you can get a lot of detail there. Okay, so to toggle through the menu on this particular unit, you use the menu button on the top left up here, and that will take you through the all the settings you have for the unit. So using, for example, a fuel setting, this does have the ability to show you how many litres are left in the tank and how many litres you're using on average and instant and all those types of things as well. So when you set up the fuel tank size and you go to fill up for the first time with this in, you'll fill up select, and that will then tell the Ultragauge that you've got the full 138 litres on board. Now obviously the car will determine how many it's using, and it'll tell you exactly how many litres are left in the tank at any point in time. In addition to that, it does have smart full and smart low thresholds. So once the fuel tank gets to a certain level and you go to fill up, it will assume that you're filling up to full if it detects it's over a certain threshold that you set here, and it will automatically fuel up. Now if you're only filling up partially, like it does say here, partial tank fill up, you simply go into there and select how many litres you put into the tank, and that will continue to keep those measurements accurate. The trouble codes down the bottom here is also where you go to make sure that there are no pending codes on the engine. So if you go to pending codes, it will scan and it will show us there is 0. So that's correct because there's no check engine light on the dash. If for whatever reason you did have one, you can press the clear check engine and it will get rid of the light on your dash and clear that code, and you'll be able to continue driving. Now to select the different gauges on your page, you just go to select the gauge page, then you go to select gauges. So obviously you've got these different settings here that do have default gauges and your M gauge setup, which is those special gauges that do come with the MX version. So for example, if we wanted to set our second gauge up for towing, for example, we could go through and choose the particular sensors we want displayed while we're towing a vehicle. So let's go through and do that now. So the first one I'd like to see is the engine load. So I'd put that at number 1. I do that by scrolling down to engine load, pressing the menu button, selecting number 1, which is automatic, and then press menu. If I want the coolant temperature as number 2, I just scroll down on the scroll down button on the right hand side, press menu, and then choose that as number 2. Now I can choose that for any selection on the gauges I want. If I go past number 8, it will take it off again. So I want that for number 2, and then scroll down through to next and press menu. So you can go through here and select all those gauges you want for that particular page. Okay, so just before we take this unit out for a drive, just keep in mind that the fuel has not been calibrated yet, so the averages, the litres in the tank and distances to empty won't be correct. But otherwise, the unit is ready to go, so let's go see how it works out on the road. Okay, so sitting at highway speeds here, this first page I got here is sort of one that I've set up for general driving. So obviously these are fully customizable, just something that I like keeping an eye on. It's mainly to do with the temperatures and also then the boost PSI. I probably would change the kilometers an hour to a fuel consumption reading, but just for the purpose of this test, just so you can sort of see what speeds we're doing and what sort of temperatures they're running at. I set up here 8 different sensors relating to temperatures and readings. So again, anything running hot or cold or anything I suspect might be not running correctly, I can go to page 2 and all temperatures that I can pick up on the Ultragauge are displayed on this particular page. On page 3 here is one that I've set up more for towing. So with our van, you want to be keeping an eye on the load the engine's at, some of the boost pressures, and very important, the temperatures of the transmission. So up the top corner here I have the torque converter temperature in degrees Celsius, and then underneath that I have the pan temperature in degrees Celsius as well. So as you can see, when the torque converter is locked up, which is indicated by this number 1 here, those temperatures are pretty much identical, if not exactly the same at all times. It's only when that transmission becomes unlocked, so if I put my foot down now, unlock that transmission, you'll see that torque converter temperature start to alter and increase. Again, when I let the gearbox settle and lock back in again, those temperatures will decrease. And you can see there just how quickly those temperatures change with a small input of acceleration. It's going to be very interesting to see this particular page when towing the van and just to monitor how hot the oil gets in that torque converter. So on page 4 here, I've just got a whole lot of fuel readings, including the pressure in the fuel rail, in PSI, all the sort of fuel gauges you need there, plus the kilowatts and newton meters outputted at the rear of the engine on the flywheel. So coming off the highway here, you can still see that the pan in the automatic transmission there is still hanging around the 68 degrees mark, but even though I'm driving at 80 kilometers an hour, the transmission is clearly not locked up, and that torque converter temperature is still sitting at 85 degrees even at those slower speeds. So that's quite an interesting fact there. Just even though it's the same oil, just a short distance away, temperatures do fluctuate a significant amount. So coming to the end of the drive here, even at these slow speeds, you can see the difference there. The transmission temperatures compared to the torque conversion temperatures, even though they share the same oil. Okay, so coming to the end of the drive there, as you can see, that gauge does a great job at providing instant information to the driver without being too distracting, but giving you that peace of mind that everything in the vehicle is working as it should. So a great thing about this MX1.4 system opposed to the other models that Ultragauge make is those transmission and torque converter temperature gauges, which are extremely important even if you're towing. One thing I found interesting is how big a difference there is between those two temperatures,
And even when decelerating and slowing down, just that difference in speed between the engine output and the gearbox does increase the temperature. It's not all about acceleration. So look, this piece of equipment is going to be essential for my driving, and it's going to be really interesting and comforting to know that everything's working as it should.
Okay guys, so thanks for watching. I hope you found today's video entertaining and informative. Look, these little Ultra gauges are really a great bit of kit. They are very easy to install, relatively inexpensive for what you get, and they really are like a little window into your engine, allowing you to see everything that's going on in the vehicle while you're driving it live and current. So they're great for those who are using their cars for heavy duty four-wheel drive applications or towing, and it gives you that peace of mind that everything in your car is working as it should. It also allows you to have that peace of mind while you're out bush. You know, if something does go wrong, you can try and diagnose it, fix it, and then clear the engine codes to get out of there without limp mode. Again, if you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks guys.